The ion storm rolled across the crimson plains of Kepler 442b like a living thing, its electric tendrils reaching down from bruised clouds to rake the surface with lethal precision. Emma's 6 legs carried her across the rocky terrain at a desperate pace, her chitinous exoskeleton already crackling with dangerous static charges. Her compound eyes, normally so efficient at parsing the alien landscape, could barely see through the electromagnetic interference. The Zitharian surveyor had been cataloging mineral deposits when the storm warnings came. Far too late. Her ship was 17 kilometers away, and the storm was moving at 3 times her maximum speed. Emma's mandibles clicked in what her species considered a death prayer when she spotted the structure. A crude dome half buried in the hillside, barely visible through the charged atmosphere. Shelter. Salvation. She didn't hesitate. The dome's entrance irised open as she approached, motion sensors she noted through her panic, and she threw herself inside just as a lightning bolt struck where she'd been standing moments before. The entrance sealed behind her with a pneumatic hiss, and the howling wind cut off abruptly, replaced by the gentle hum of environmental systems. Emma's breathing slits heaved as she tried to process oxygen through her overloaded system. Then she looked up and froze completely. A human sat across the small shelter, watching her with those unsettling binocular eyes. Male, if she remembered the intelligence briefings correctly. He was lean, with skin the color of sun-dried clay and dark hair that fell across his forehead. He wore a battered pressure suit with the sleeves rolled up, and his hands, those strange 5-fingered appendages, rested calmly on his knees. "Storm's going to last about 6 hours," Elijah said, his voice maddeningly calm. "You picked a good time to drop in." Emma's translator implant struggled with the colloquialism. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, but the storm's fury raged outside. She was trapped. With a human. The galaxy had been abuzz with talk of humans for the past decade. The species that shouldn't exist. The species that came from a death world so hostile that their evolution had been a cosmic accident. A biological impossibility that somehow resulted in apex predators with persistence that bordered on supernatural. They called it HFY in the diplomatic channels. Humanity. Fuck yeah. Though the expletive was always carefully translated into more diplomatic terms. But everyone knew what it meant. Humans were terrifying. They bonded with anything. They refused to die. They turned poisons into recreational beverages and thought nothing of activities that would kill most species. And one was sitting 3 meters from her, smiling slightly. "I won't hurt you," Elijah said, reading her body language with disturbing accuracy. "Name's Elijah. I'm a terraforming consultant. Been out here for 8 months. Emma," she managed, her translator converting her clicking mandibles into something approximating human speech. "Zitharian Geological Survey Corps. Pleased to meet you, Emma." He gestured around the shelter. "Not much, but it's home. Can I get you anything? Water? I might have some nutrients compatible with your biology." This was wrong. This was all wrong. Humans were supposed to be aggressive, territorial. The stories spoke of their wars, their violence, their capacity for destruction, but this one was offering her hospitality. Why? Emma asked, unable to contain her confusion. "Why help me?" Elijah tilted his head, and Emma noticed a scar running along his jawline. "Because you needed help. Storm would have killed you in another minute. But I'm not your species." "No," Elijah agreed. "You're not." "Does that matter?" It should, Emma thought. Every species looked after their own first. It was biological imperative, evolutionary logic. But humans had this strange concept they called empathy. They could look at something completely alien and see a person in need. "Your species frightens the galaxy," Emma said quietly. Elijah nodded slowly. "I know. We frighten ourselves sometimes." He stood, moving to a small fabricator unit. "But that's not all we are." He returned with a nutrient pack, the label printed in Zitharian standard. He'd had supplies for her species. Out here alone, 17 light-years from Earth, this human had stocked his shelter with emergency provisions for aliens he might never meet. Emma accepted the pack with trembling manipulators. "I don't understand your species." "Join the club," Elijah said with a wry smile. "We're still figuring ourselves out." He settled back down, maintaining a respectful distance. "But I can tell you this. Yeah, we come from a world that tried to kill us every day. Yeah, We're stubborn and aggressive and we don't know when to quit. But we also learned something on that death world of ours. What? Emma asked, genuinely curious now. That survival is easier together. That protecting the weak doesn't make you weak, it makes you strong. That the universe is vast and hostile and beautiful, and there's room in it for all of us. He gestured to the shelter walls, beyond which the storm raged. Out here, we're all just trying to survive. Species doesn't matter when the universe is trying to kill you. Emma consumed her nutrients in silence, processing this. The briefings had warned about human persistence, human aggression, human adaptability, but they'd said nothing about this. About the quiet strength in offering shelter to a stranger. About the radical empathy that could see past chitinous armor and compound eyes to recognize a fellow sentient in distress. The storm howled outside, its fury unabated. But inside the small dome, two beings from worlds 17 light-years apart sat in companionable silence. Emma found herself relaxing, her chitinous plates settling into a less defensive configuration. "Tell me about Earth," she said finally. Elijah's eyes lit up and he began to speak. He told her about oceans that covered most of the planet, about mountains that scraped the sky, about the countless species that shared his world. He spoke of cities and wildernesses, of music and art, of the strange human compulsion to explore and create and protect. When the storm finally passed 6 hours later, Emma emerged from the shelter with a new understanding. Humans were dangerous, yes. They were relentless and fierce and capable of terrible things, but they were also capable of tremendous kindness, of seeing past difference to find common ground, of offering shelter to strangers in storms. As she made her way back to her ship, Emma looked back once at the small dome. Elijah stood in the entrance, raising one hand in farewell. She raised a manipulator in response. The galaxy feared humanity. Perhaps it was time the galaxy learned to understand them instead. Perhaps that's what HFY really meant. Not just that humanity refused to yield, but that they refused to abandon each other, or anyone else who needed help. Even in the darkest storms, even on alien worlds, even for creatures who walked on 6 legs and breathed different air. Emma clicked her mandibles in what, for her species, was a smile. The storm had brought her to a human's door, and she'd learned that sometimes the most dangerous thing about humans wasn't their capacity for violence. It was their capacity for compassion. That, perhaps, was the most terrifying and wonderful thing about them.